I don't like anime.
All right.
I don't care
You
for
were
it. It's not my
kind of
cup of
into
tea.
Digimon for a while.
When it was appropriate, not as a teenager.
When it was allowed.
Hey, and welcome back with all the weird energy I could possibly muster. I want to welcome you all to Popcorn and Beers, where some use tomatoes and others use thumbs. We use the stuff that gets you drunk. Welcome in. We've got America. We've got Buble. We've got quite a bit going on this week, and so we don't go long and tear up your weekend too much. I will say the Drunk Classic and the Butter on Top kind of went hand in hand as weird martial arts based movies that were both fun and just made you say what at some points in the movies.
That's correct.
All right, so Josh, let's start with you and what you were watching.
I'll tell you what I was watching. Justified, City Primeval. It's the revival of the Justified show. I think the original had like at least 5 seasons. It's really popular in the South, just so you know. I don't know about anywhere else in the world, but my stepdad really loves it. So we were happy to see it come back. It was cool. I mean, I forgot the main character's name, the actor, but he's just a handsome. Timothy Oliphant is just a handsome, charismatic bitch. You know what I mean? So it's nice to see him back on the screen. I don't care what happens. Just give him a gun and give him a car and like let him go somewhere. And that's what he did. Mm-hmm. The thing of note about this season is that it's in a different city entirely. So the setting, which was a very vibrant, alive setting that was built over time, is completely just shirked, which is okay. Let's see what happens in a new city. And it's a big city, and it's really metro, and so it's a new environment for him. So that's cool, interesting. Oh, let's just go ahead and throw in, he has a twin brother. What? His twin brother is... also very charismatic. He's the bad guy from, with the robot hand from the Logan movie.
He plays
the bad guy a lot. Yeah, he's the bad guy.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure. Big time. He's got that Southern twang. In this, he's a total psychopath. And it seems like he just does things to mess things up, mess himself up because of his psychotic pride. Anyway, interesting show. I didn't have a big problem with it. It wasn't like a... tell everyone about it, even though I'm telling everyone about it. I call it a popcorn and one.
So they should have just called it Cowboy in the City. That's what they should have called it.
Cowboy in the City. Yeah. Next up, I watched one that was pretty okay. It was pretty okay. That's my review of it. It's called Werewolves Within. It's got Sam Richardson is the lead. And he plays a ranger, and he goes to a new post, and things get wild and wacky in a murder mystery sort of way. So the whole idea is that there is a werewolf on the loose, and people are dying, and people are trapped in the town. And who is it? Who could it be? It's a werewolf, so it could be any one of us, and it's snow outside, so we can't really go anywhere. It's one of those types of movies, but it's laced with some good comedy, a great cast, a bunch of names that you'd know their face if you saw them, every single one of them. It has Milan Vaintrub. Are you familiar with her?
No. What was she in?
She's the AT&T girl.
Oh, yes. Then yes, I am familiar with her.
She's there's been a huge fan reach out to make her Squirrel Girl in the MCU. She's perfect for that role.
She was also in This Is Us. She had a small role in This Is Us.
Yep.
Where she played like one of the producers of the play that he was in.
I thought you were going to say she played AT&T girl.
There's an interesting backstory, by the way. Like, if you guys, I don't know if you guys read a lot of news, but there's some interesting backstory with that whole AT&T thing.
There really is. Yeah. There really is. And I applaud her for taking power. You know, it's good. I mean, she's actually pretty cool. In this movie, she plays the manic pixie girl, but totally takes a hard left pretty quick. You think you're in one of those movies where he finds the girl who's like way too good to be true, and then they just do a thing with romance, but that changes like within the first act, and that's pretty cool. I like how they like dodged that, but it was nice. And then they have really good humor, not good enough to tell all your friends about, nothing particularly quotable. Sam Richardson did an okay job. I give it a popcorn and one as well. It's pretty okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Now here's one that was just okay. just okay was X-Men: The Last Stand. It was just on TV, so I watched it with my dad.
Okay.
You know, it's been a while since I saw it, and I remember seeing it many times before, thinking like, actually not many times. I've seen it twice before because it was like, this movie's kind of trash. It was not the big finale send-off to the trilogy that I thought it was going to be. It had some really cool moments. After all these years, I'm okay with the movie. It's not a bad movie. There's a lot of stuff that's like, what? And a lot of like loopholes and bad writing and shoving characters into it just for the sake of having all these characters, but don't give them actual presence. Just say, oh yeah, back there's Jubilee. You know what I mean? So, whatever.
Yeah.
People use powers in a strange way. Professor Xavier blows up. So if you look at it from
all
a
these
frame
characters
of like,
without a soul.
Yeah. I don't know. It's whatever. It's just a pulpy, over-the-top movie. Like, the way I like Batman Forever is sort of the way I like this movie. Like, we know what's wrong with it. Let's just watch it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That was it for me. Yeah, just a lot of okay.
What did you rate it?
Last Stand gets a popcorn.
Gets a popcorn. All right, Jordan, you were up to bat. What were you watching this week?
I finally got around to watching the Lord of the Rings prequel, The Rings of Power, on Amazon Prime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it starts out pretty slow, but it quickly pulls you, back into that Lord of the Rings, Middle Earth world. You're quickly like, okay, this feels comfortable. This feels nostalgic. I'm in it. I'm not the most well versed in all the Lord of the Rings lore. So, and to that person who's watching this, it is a little bit hindering at the beginning. You're kind of like, you're a little lost.
It's like a 5,000-page world.
Yeah.
It's so hard to know what, like, after 5,000 pages, you don't remember shit.
Well, I've seen all of the movies, and I've seen the extended versions of all of the movies.
Yeah.
Within a year.
Yeah.
Within a year. Like last year, I think I sat down and I watched all of them over the course of a couple months. And
the extended versions are great.
I was still pretty confused. Confused.
For sure. A big part of that is this this collection of stories, whatever, this iteration of the Lord of the Rings world is based on the Silmarillion mostly, and that is a lot of lore. It was kind of the lore book, the one that was talking about everything. So there's a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
I feel you.
The character dynamics, I was gonna say, are a little confusing. You're kind of trying to guess, like, you're trying to connect it to what you already know. If you haven't read anything, if you've just seen the movies, you're like, okay, that's kind of the precursor to that. Okay, this person, I think this person is that person later on or something. There's no hobbits. There are hobbits, but they're hobbit ancestors, if you will. They're called Harfoots. And I had to read into what that is a little bit. I'm not going to bore you, but they're kind of like the ancestors to hobbits.
Mm-hmm.
They're neat. They're cool.
They have their own little story, but it doesn't have a ton to do with the main story until the end of their story. Like, once you reach the end of their little side story, then it starts to tie in. But that's like 9 episodes in.
Yeah. I likened them, like their presence in general, I felt like was really just to explain why Gandalf loves hobbits. He loves hobbits, and I think that was the main part of this story, was showing why.
So is he supposed to be Gandalf? Is that what I was like? He has to be either Saruman or he's Gandalf.
He's Sauron.
He's Gandalf.
Damn it! Spoiler alert.
No.
Sorry, everybody pause. Delete that.
We're wrong. We're off.
Yeah, I'll delete that. But like I said, I haven't finished it. The big tall guy who meets the hobbits, that's Sauron?
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes, it was.
No,
yes, it was. He says it at the last episode.
No, wait. The guy who fell from the sky.
The guy fell from the sky is not Sauron.
It is
Gandalf.
No, it's the guy that she pulls from the water. What's Galadriel? The guy that's like, he's Sauron.
Yeah, the dude who like falls from the sky in a comet and he's naked.
No, that's not Sauron. You're right, Gandalf. Jordan.
Yeah,
the guy they pull from the water.
On the boat. Yeah. No, but I'm trying to say, is he Gandalf or is he Saruman, the other wizard, the white wizard? Bad? Yes,
because Gandalf is the gray wizard, right?
I did not know. Yeah, you're right. It's probably Saruman.
Okay, guys, we're probably nerding out way too much for most of our audience.
Yeah, this will get cut. My bad.
This is its own podcast. Yeah, this is like us breaking down the Lord of the Rings universe and what we know about it is a totally separate podcast.
Okay. Yeah, moving on.
There's a weird random scene in like the first, I don't know, 2-3 episodes where the main character, elf girl, Galadriel,
badass.
She's cool. She kicks some ass. She's like slow mo, and it's just random. It's the only scene that's kind of like this in the whole thing, where she's riding a horse in just really slow motion, and there's just like this pure joy expression on her face, and that goes on just a little bit too long, and you're kind of just like, what's happening? Yeah, it got a little weird. Too bad it's gonna take 5 years to get a second season of this. I think we're already about 2 years into it, and then with the strikes, pay those writers. It's looking like it's going to be a whole lot longer. I give this a pop 2.
Pop 2.
Pop 2.
What's next?
I got to watch the Steph Curry underrated documentary on Apple TV. I'm going to preface this. I'm biased. I love Stephen Curry. I'm literally wearing a Golden State t-shirt and my shorts that I'm not going to stand up for you. My basketball shorts.
No, let's see those shorts.
Yeah.
Let's see it.
He's like, Fry's not going to call me out on the show. I'm going to beat him to the punch and say I'm biased.
I'm laying it on the table. I love Stephen Curry. The beginning, it starts off with Steph breaking the all-time three-point record in Madison Square Garden. I believe that was this last 2 years ago. This last year.
It was the championship year, I thought.
Was it?
I thought it was the championship year.
Okay. I got chills watching that. That was fantastic. I saw it live, and I've seen, highlights of it and whatnot again and again, but it brings you right back into it. It gave me chills. Not very much here. As we kind of talked about in pre-production, it's very surface. You could tell it's just very him. It's just PR. It's just him trying to and he is. You can't really say too much bad things about the guy, but it's just made to make him seem like the most well-rounded, nicest person in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And as far as we all know, he kind of is that guy. He does a lot of good stuff for the community, and he represents himself well. His son is adorable. He's going to be an athlete. You can tell he does some things like just playing around with his dad. You're like, that kid's got some natural hand-eye coordination for like a little kid his size,
Mm-hmm.
You're like, wow, he's going to do something. It's mostly about his college years at Davidson. Gives you some perspective on these small schools when they make these really crazy, miraculous NCAA tournament runs. If you didn't know, his school was like in the worst conference in all of college basketball, and they made it to the Elite Eight, I believe, and they beat some really high-seeded schools. It kind of blazes through the championship runs that the Warriors have, his basketball success. It gives you a little bit on his early years, how he was, got the ankle injuries going on. But it just blazes through the championships. Like, okay, here's a montage of them celebrating in this year. And then it, just totally glosses over the Kevin Durant dynamic. But it does slow down and give you a round by round kind of narrative around their last win in 2022. We were kind of arguing like, man, it doesn't go through any of the juicy stuff, any of the beef with Durant and Draymond or anything like that. And I'm like, I think they're saving that for when this dynasty really officially ends. They're going to give us something on the actual Warriors as a whole.
Get into it after there's no more drama to be had.
Yeah, we could go over that on the Sad Fan. That's a different podcast as well. But I have a lot on my mind about that, about how much Kevin Durant threw away, and lots of different thoughts on that subject. But also, man, to be a fly on the wall in that locker room, that's what I want to see.
Yeah,
look at all those butts.
It ends with him getting his college degree, but like I said, it's very I guess dull. Sorry, Steph Curry.
It's boring.
Love you. Yeah. Popcorn in one.
If you're not a Steph Curry fan, it's not what you wanted from a documentary.
Yeah, they really could have made him look like an Avenger. in this, like the way they could, but it was just it just played very safe. I got to the theater to watch Talk to Me, a scary movie, an A24 movie. This wasn't very well marketed. I couldn't tell you what the movie was about at all, besides something to do with a hand going into it. It was funny because I got up to the ticket counter and I went, "Can I get a ticket to?" And I forgot the name of the movie. I went, I panicked and just went, "The hand one, the one with the hand." And the guy was so confused. He's like, Transformers? I'm like, is Transformers even still in theater anymore?
Yeah, that surprised me last week.
Yeah. So yeah, it's the first feature film of the directors of this movie. It's their first feature film that they ever made. And they, I don't know, call it beginner's luck. They killed it. They knocked it out of the park. You might have seen some viral videos there's this weird viral video of like basically Ronald McDonald going haywire and like beating up some kid. It's like a short clip film on Twitter. I don't know if you've seen it. You might have, but these are those guys. They made those videos. So this movie, it's a lot of different elements of different scary movies. You can recognize it. Like that's kind of a part of that movie that I've seen. And this is kind of part of that movie that I've seen. And the thing is that a lot of the reviews with this movie they say original is a word that comes up a lot. It's original. It's original. It's so original, but it's not because it has a lot of these things that a lot of horror movies have in them, but they're just not overly done or feel really badly cliche. It's good cliche. They took all these elements and they did them the right way. It's super scary, but not only in a jump scare way. That you do get a couple of jump scares, but it's psychological. It's ghost story. It's over the top, like kind of grotesque at times. But like I said, none of it is too overdone.
Like House of a Thousand Corpses, grotesque. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It gets real grotesque in a few scenes where it's like, oh my God. Yeah. Like I couldn't I couldn't show this to a few people I know that are into horror. Like it's just a little too much. But it's very quick and it's like I said, like I keep saying, nothing here is overdone to where you're like, ugh.
Oh, okay. So it has a little subtlety, even though there's gore. Yeah. That's nice.
Yeah. It's an Australian film. So the accents, and along with it's being a teenager movie, so there's a lot of mumbling and so kind of poor enunciation in some of it. So that's a little difficult. It's also interesting the parenting dynamic for all these teenagers, how it's a little bit different than it is in the US, how it's represented in movies and stuff. It's very I'll use the word laissez-faire. Just sounds sophisticated. Yeah, they're just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to do an accent either.
Do it.
They're just like, yeah, have fun, have a party, yeah, have sex with your boyfriend. They don't care. There's good humor in it. I'm praying that they don't make a sequel. I could totally see them making a sequel to this to kind of money grab. A sequel will be absolutely terrible because this was done very well. Yeah, they didn't. There's nothing left. I don't think they could go with it. Don't kill dogs. Right?
Yeah, do it. That's the rule.
Don't kill dogs. But I feel like also this is culturally probably a little more significant than to us. But don't kill kangaroos. Nobody wants to see it. They could have implied or just gave you some sound of what's going on, but they really focus on it. That is one thing that's overdone a little bit too much. They don't kill too many kangaroos, but they kill one, and it's just like, okay, let's move on past this. This is not. I don't like it.
I don't like it.
It's a stressful movie. It's very high stress. You want the stress to end, and you want it to quit while it's ahead, while it's wrapping up. You're like, okay, end the movie. This is good. Don't stop going. Don't go any further. And right when it gets there, right when you feel like, oh my gosh, this is really going to let me down. It's going to have some weird A24 horror ending that they always seem to hit you with. You actually do get that perfectly cathartic ending. With a little bit of self-interpretation.
Oh,
a little bit of like, okay, a little bit of you have to fill in some blanks yourself.
Yeah,
that kind of leaves you thinking about it and still pretty scared the rest of the night. I was thinking about it and just had a little bit of the willies, you know? Yeah, it's a great movie, but for a horror movie, I give it a pop 2. A very good pop
2. Wow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I appreciate that because scary movies, it's most of the time it's hard to land the plane. And that's nice to hear that they at least landed the plane. That's nice. Nice. Okay, well, yeah, we had Fry just jumped off. He had to help out a friend, a little car trouble. Let's get into the nitty gritty here. We watched Bunraku. This is a movie with Woody Harrelson. It's got Josh Hartnett. Always good to see him. It's got the original Hellboy. What's his name?
Ron Perlman.
The original Hellboy, and the guy who's the voice actor in almost every cartoon. Demi Moore is in it, and it's got all these other things. In rewatching this film, first of all, Poppin' 3 for me. Okay. I started to write down, this is this movie plus this movie. If they had a baby, this movie would come out, right? So this is what I came up with in the end. Batman Forever.
I have a few comments like that as well. Yeah.
Good. Okay. So yeah. Batman Forever, Sin City, Speed Racer, and The Spirit. Yep. All that wrapped together with a little bit of Kick-Ass, perhaps. It was a beautiful film. Super heavy dramatic lighting, over the top costumes, over the top characters, set design. Mwah! Absolutely incredible. It's a telenovela type movie with all kinds of kung fu sprinkled throughout with Western vibes. It's a giant comic book of a movie. Melodrama. There's like avant-garde fashion. This incredible fights. Everyone has their own specific fighting style, and they give everyone a chance to show it. And that feeds their character. Like, it's interpretive of who they are, which is so beautiful in choreography and fight scenes. The one take, I'm a sucker for those. The one take fight scene with all the video game sound effects and the video game camera work. It was beautiful. And that was an example of this movie was so indulgent. There's so many scenes that were like a little bit much, but it just was feeding into the kind of movie that it wants to be. There didn't need to be a video game fight scene. There didn't need to be a secret army of villagers in the end. That was ridiculous, but it was just fun. I did notice in that fight scene in particular, but other stuff, it's like no one knows how to use their weapons. Actually, like the cops have these tonfa spears, and it doesn't seem like they know how spears work because they just let Hartnett get in there with the quick right hook, But back to Hartnett with the brim of the hat and he's stylish, killing people with one sock to the jaw. And then the samurai is a guy named Gact, the real person, who is basically David Bowie. And he has David Bowie androgynous features, which was really cool. He was a really cool, interesting looking guy, interesting character, great acting. A samurai without a sword. That's a pretty cool idea. He was using some cool karate, taekwondo stuff, not karate. I really liked number 2 with his like cane sword fighting with the scarf. It was just so exciting. It was a really cool movie. I give it a popcorn in 3.
Okay. Yeah. You hit pretty much like 90% of my notes. I love the opening scene, the like paper animation thing. They've seen it, just something to compare it to. If you've seen the new Candyman, which, objectively was not a good movie, how they do the kind of paper to give you the exposition of it. It's done like that, but it's really good. It's really cool. Yes. The whole world, and it's because it's so strange, but it's the world and its rules are established quickly, but it does try to introduce a few too many concepts to this world that maybe it doesn't expand on enough. But Josh Hartnett is a super underutilized great actor. From what I can gather, it's kind of a personal thing, but it's great. It's always great to see him in something. I really like him.
Yeah.
It's pretty silly. It's a pretty silly movie in and out of context. They introduce the guys they call the red suits, and it's enter the red suits. Red suits.
Yeah. And the sound effects. They play along with the sound effects a lot. Very good. Like Scott Pilgrim.
Okay. Yeah, it's like okay, what was that? But all right, that was funny.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's very Tim Burton to me. I got a little bit of Tim Burton vibes. Frank Miller, you named a lot of Frank Miller movies. Sin City, all of that. Ron Perlman, his character gives me very Slade from the animated Teen Titans.
Very good. Yeah.
I feel like he'd be great to play that role in person if they ever did. Like, they should do an animation sidebar here to animation to Teen Titans. They should do some kind of live action version of that exact storyline because it was so great.
Yeah.
I give this a popcorn and 2. I really liked it. I would pass this along. Yeah.
Nice. I'm not sure. Did you look up Bunraku, like the actual art of Bunraku?
No, I had no idea what that meant, actually.
Yeah. Okay. So Bunraku is like, hey, Fry's back. But as I was saying, Bunraku, the actual art, is a Japanese tradition of puppet theater. And I suggest that you go on YouTube and just look at it. There's like behind the scenes stuff. These are like century-year-old puppets that have been maintained and caretaken. They just keep using the same puppets until the wood rots. And they have all these like really elaborate costumes, sets, wigs for the puppets. Extremely the way that this movie was melodramatic and crazy and weird and heavy with the lighting and everything. It was all based on Bunraku in general, which is like kabuki but with puppets. You know what I mean? Over the top stuff. So that was really interesting. Fry, you're back. Welcome. So I just went over my thoughts on Bunraku, saying I loved it. Popcorn and 3, the one take, the crazy stuff. Jordan felt the same, but he's a popcorn and 2. What are your thoughts on Bunraku?
I fell asleep twice during this movie.
Oh my gosh.
2 times during this movie. One, at that point, if Josh had told me that prior to watching the movie, I would have probably scored it higher, paid closer attention. Now some things make sense. I thought they were trying a little too hard to be Sin City Kill Bill-y. And I was like, okay, this is lame. I've seen this 1,000,000,000 times. And I looked and see when it was made to make sure I wasn't being a total
from that era.
male
You're
appendage.
You're right.
Yeah, it's from 2010, and I was like, wow, this is post Kill Bill, this is post Sin City, post Sin City 2, Sucker Punch. I was like, they're just copying so many styles. It's towards that lull in Josh Hartnett's career where he wasn't putting out anything good, and he's just not believable as a cowboy.
What?
Casting.
He was
awful.
What?
Yeah, he was good.
Josh Hartnett was so cool. It was sexy and cool the whole time.
I'm sexy cigarette smoking cow. No, give me Val Kilmer over Josh Hartnett any day.
Okay.
Now, okay, Doc Holliday with
Doc
Val
Holliday.
Kilmer. Perfect.
That was the coolest cowboy for sure.
Josh Hartnett was too bad. The Yoshi was too pretty as well.
We were saying about that. So I said it before. He's basically like a David Bowie type person in Japan. He's a huge name, acting, music, and other stuff. He's an artist, and so it was interesting to see him cast that way too. Yeah.
What was cousin's name? Makushi?
Momoko or something like that.
Momoko. Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
She was not. She was annoying. She was a really annoying character. Everything she did in the movie annoyed me. I was like, can someone shut little cousin up so she just stop talking because everything she says is out of turn. Like, oh, you can't just come in here and be tough. Now I'm not going to say anything for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
What? Like, there's no more. There's no follow on. Just you making an annoying quip. Like,
what
you're
about
not
Woody
even
Harrelson?
Funny. That's the name I wrote down. I wrote down Woody is always great. I wrote cheese.
Cheese.
It was total cheese, so why didn't I like it was my question. And you know why? It was because it was cheese that didn't know it was cheese. It was cheese that was trying to be cool and artsy and over the top artistic. And I was like, no, it's cheese. Lean into the cheese. Give me more cheese. But every time Woody was on set, it appeared he would lean into the cheese. Like, Woody was down for the cheddar acting. Like the fight scene outside, totally unnecessary, where we're going to gain respect for each other in the rain.
And he's like narrating sort of like, a samurai without a sword and so fate brings us together type of shit.
Yeah. I put both acting and the narration is cornball.
Cornball.
And then I put in the style of the day. Demi Moore was fantastic. She has a very Sin City-esque scene in it. The number 2 death was so lame. It was so lame.
His death was lame.
I wanted it to be so much cooler.
Because he was such a cool character, right?
I wanted it to be so much cooler because it was... Yes, and that's why it was so lame. It's just like, oh, I'm going to smell the air and then get stabbed. Oh, the air is so great. You're in a sword fight. No one stops, and it wasn't even in his character's, like, style throughout the movie. It was just a random, oh, now I love air. Before that, it was, I'm a killing machine.
Oh, no, you must have missed that line. Now it's the world is
beautiful. Pick a character.
Did you miss that?
Pick a damn character.
Did you miss that line? He mentioned... He loves the smell.
I might have fallen asleep.
He loves the smell of the air right before someone dies.
I guess I did miss that. I love Ron Perlman, but that was a stupid character too. Overall, I didn't mind the movie, to be honest. I'm being a bit too harsh, but I really wanted to emphasize the points that made
I like that.
The score I gave.
I like all your criticisms, yeah.
Outside of that, honestly, if I was back in 2010, I would have loved this movie. I think. I really do. But I'm 13 years removed from this style of when I like. That's why there can't be another Sin City. There can't be another 300. Like, it's over for me. Like, the 302 wasn't that great. It was fine.
No. It wasn't that great.
It was fine, but it wasn't that great. And it's honestly because we've seen it. We saw the phenomenon. It was amazing. So that's again also why if I had known this was a Japanese puppet style theater, I would have been totally open to it. But because I didn't know that, the concept to me was very much copying a lot of movies that came before it as opposed to being original. Yeah. The Japanese puppetry aspect of it would have made it original.
Yeah, so it would help to know that. I do appreciate what you say about it was of the time for sure. It is notable, though, that a lot of the effects are practical. Like the scenes are very well their own, even though it's within that genre type in that of the time. Like, it's all like cardboard. Like, the whole movie's cardboard and lighting. I like that.
Yeah, the set design was very Wes Anderson.
Yeah, that too. So, right up my alley. Anyway.
So, I apologize. I'm going to reverse it like Missy Elliott. I'm going to tell you what I was watching. I watched Mark Normand, Soup to Nuts. If you don't know who Mark Normand, he's this guy. Comedy.
Yeah. We're having a good time.
You should know exactly who Mark Normand is just from that. I mean, yeah, you can say what you want about me, but I had sex with your mom. Like, that's Mark Normand.
Well, okay?
And his stuff is
like
funny.
The crowd work guy.
Exactly. It was very much him. It was very much in his style. There wasn't a lot of new stuff to me. It was stuff like I've seen on YouTube or Instagram with Reels. So it didn't make me laugh as much as I was hoping because there wasn't a ton of new material to grasp, which I think is the downside to a lot of what we do in today's world with Reels to get our content out there. It's we're showing everybody the best parts of our act before they see the whole show.
Right.
So, popping one for me for that. Then I watched Hidden Strike with Jackie Chan and John Cena. This was very clearly a Chinese propaganda film. You will know exactly what I'm talking about when you watch it. It was kind of like Team America World Police for China. It was China, bleep, yeah. I love Jackie Chan, which is what wrote me in. I was like, I haven't seen Jackie Chan in something since The Foreigner. That was like 2016. This will be kind of cool, right? It wasn't. The CGI was god-awful. John Cena was just... He's doing his best to imitate Sylvester Stallone while not being Sylvester Stallone. And it's like I really thought it was going to get super post-apocalyptic because it's subtitled with in a world where we're running low on water and oil, and then they never touch that again. They just fight over a refinery. Like, it's just like, so we're going to fight over a refinery and steal the oil from the refinery. Like, what? Like, that's you just did modern world. It's the modern world. You didn't change. Nothing happened. It's not post-apocalyptic. It's today. Lots of lazy takes, heavy on the subtitles for reasons I mentioned earlier. Takes forever to get fun. When it gets fun, again, the CGI is absolutely awful. The villain is ambiguous. It's kind of American mercenaries, kind of British mercenaries, zero Chinese bad guys. I don't know. You know what I learned from this movie?
What?
Jackie Chan cannot throw a baseball. That's what I learned. Because there's a scene for no reason where him and John Cena just play catch. And they set it up like this is going to be badass. Because John Cena, in all the craziness, decides I'm going to go play catch with this little kid because I'm a father figure to this little kid. So we're going to throw the ball around.
It reminds me of the scene from Walk Hard, Dewey Cox story, where he's got to catch up with time. He's playing catch all his kids, and then all of a sudden there's a random Asian kid, and he's like, "Are you sure? Are you sure you're one of mine?"
So with that, it was struggle to even give it a popcorn. But I'll just give you an imitation of Jackie Chan throwing a baseball. It looks like this. It was hard to give it a popcorn. The next thing I watched is Happiness is for Beginners. And that stars Ellie Kemper. If you don't know who she is, she's the unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt or Erin from The Office. This was a movie.
Sorry.
Yeah, I honestly thought that this movie was going to be funny. And it wasn't funny. It has the Filipino guy from the Superstore show. And he was kind of comedic relief. In fact, the funniest line in it was his, where they're in a motel, right? Like one of those rundown motels before they go on this long camping trip. And it's a story about a young lady who's going through divorce to the wrong guy. And she's going to go on a camping trip to rediscover herself. But they're in this rundown motel before the hike starts, before the camping trip starts, right? And he's like talking to her. The last thing he says to her before he leaves is the thing I would never want to hear as I'm staying in a motel. He goes, "Try not to get murdered tonight." As he walks out. And I was like, it made me audibly laugh out loud. There were two scenes, and that was one of them. I don't want to give away all the funny parts.
Because there's only two.
Because there's only two. Overall, it's gosh, today's world just doesn't know what it wants in a great film. Like, The Menu was probably the best film I had seen last year. I maybe Triangle of Sadness, but it's stop playing. I don't need 40 themes in a movie.
Right.
Like, I don't need it. Stick to the theme. And like they introduce a love interest who's also her little brother's best friend, who's always had a crush on her, but now he's going blind, but he was a doctor. And I'm like, okay,
whoa,
enough.
Yeah.
Pick one.
Yeah.
Pick one thing. The hiking director was the highlight. I don't know the actor's name. His nickname was Doogie, which is like, Doogie Howser, you look too young to be doing this. He was funny because he would have moments where he's very serious and then snap back into his anal retentive person, where he's like, "Did you pick up that piece of paper? Did you clean up the fire?" After he just had this very heartfelt moment. I felt the actor did that very well in those moments. It was very believable. But at the end of the day, it was a soft pop and one, like a very soft pop
and one.
And then of course my pop three. You have to be into this. If you're uber religious, you won't like it. The Righteous Gemstones, season 3. I think it's the end of the series. John Goodman, Danny McBride, Adam Devine, Edie Patterson, pardon me. It's just such a funny show. And it's about an evangelistic family who makes millions of dollars. Each one has their own private jet. It starts off with the very first episode in season 1, starts off with them in China trying to have the biggest baptism ever on record, and then the tide pool starts, and that sets the tone for all 3 seasons.
Oh, that's awesome!
And yes, it was. I was in from the moment that happens. It's kind of like, what if you were doing a baptism in a country where nobody speaks the same language as you, and then you realize you're doing it at a tide pool, and you forgot to tell them to not turn on the tide pool.
That's funny.
They just fly everywhere. But it was a fantastic series. I think it ended perfectly. I don't think you're getting a season 4, and I hope we don't, because it was hilarious. And at the end of the day, the family took over. Eric Andre it was my favorite role Eric Andre ever did in season 2, the season prior to this one, obviously, because I'm talking about season 3. He was fantastic in it. John Goodman is just phenomenal. He's just so funny. He's so perfect for the role. Never misses. He's just so good. Danny McBride, this is a great recovery from the Halloween series he took on, where he did a terrible job with the Halloween movies. If you're a fan of comedy, if you just want 25 to 33-minute episodes where it just like injects some comedy into my veins, Righteous Gemstones will give it to you. Lots of peckers. You see a lot of peckers, I will say that. But there is a hilarious scene, and I'm just going to give this away. I don't think it's a spoiler. This episode happened in the middle of season 3. I'm reviewing it now a couple episodes after the show has finished, right? The show has wrapped. But there's this an episode where Edie Patterson's husband, BJ, decides he's going to avenge his honor after his wife made out with another man. There's a 5 to 7 minute scene with BJ just getting his tail kicked by a naked man, and there's just dong flopping around as he's getting beat up.
That's great.
Oh man.
Naked fight scenes are wonderful. Yeah. Anyway,
right. I mean, no,
but you can't say it more than once. You can't say Molly walked twice in a movie.
It's the context and how it's used. It's very. It seems very forced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like all of the slang.
Forced dialogue. Yeah. Okay.
In it. Yeah. I guess Raphael, because they need to differentiate the characters for branding or whatever. I guess Raphael is now the husky kind of oafish turtle now.
Oh, geez.
With they do have that scene with Rocksteady and Bebop where he's the big turtle, so he relates to the big villains.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they make him the fat brother.
Yeah.
And of course, Leonardo, right? He's the purple one. No,
that's Donatello.
Donatello's the purple one.
Yes.
Best one.
Donatello, of course, he's always kind of been the smart one, kind of. But of course, the smart dorky one has to wear glasses. I take great offense to that. It's bad. It's bad for children. All right, to make always have the dorky smart one into anime and stuff. I don't like anime. Right. I wore glasses my whole life. I mean, I don't not like anime, but I don't care.
You were kind of into Digimon for a while.
When it was appropriate, not as a teenager.
When it was allowed. Oh boy.
Yeah, when it was an appropriate age-wise for me.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I took my how old is he? Like three-year-old godson to take this, and he fell asleep about an hour into it. And I don't know if it's just because of his age, but I've taken him to see many movies, and this is the first time he's ever fallen asleep in the theater on me. And I tried to wake him up, like, "Hey, bro, you're missing." I let him sleep for like 15 minutes. I'm like, "Hey, bro, you're missing the movie. It's starting to get good." And he's just like, he just shook his head. He's like, "No," and went back to sleep. So I think he agrees with me on giving this one a popcorn.
Whoa. A popcorn. Well, I gave it a pop one. And it's just because I wanted to give it the benefit of the doubt that perhaps my expectations were so high that it was going to let me down no matter what. Because it looked so good in the trailer. I mean, April O'Neil had her moments. It was a tough character to enjoy and a tough character to not enjoy. I don't know if that makes sense. Because I understood what they were trying to do with her. I just don't think they did it well.
But overall, I think she was the best character.
I liked Michelangelo again. I did.
I think she had the funniest moments as April O'Neil did.
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah.
Probably right. But I thought Michelangelo was done perfectly, and he was probably the only character that was done perfectly. Like, they made Leonardo kind of a weirdo, which was odd. Like, even as the leader, like, he wasn't Leonardo-y, but Michelangelo was very Michelangelo-y, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, there was I think the funniest scene, there's a couple funny scenes, but I think one of my favorite scenes that I could reference here without spoiling the movie is when they break into the high school and they start talking about what their high school life is going to be like. And he goes, "Oh, I don't have a last name. I know what I'll do. I'll split up my 2 first names. It'll be Michael Angelo." And he goes, "Well, what would my name be?" And he'd be like, "Whatever, Nardo." He's like, "You're Leon Nardo." And just start making fun. That was pretty funny.
Yeah.
But outside of that, Splinter, Ratman, that made me laugh out loud when he's trying to show the kids New York City, and everybody thinks it's just a regular person. That was a weird scene. Like, no one pays attention to the rat carrying 3 giant turtles, and then someone notices, and she's like, "Ratman!" And that made me laugh really loud. Outside of that, it was rough. It was very, like, you called it Gen Z-y. I said it took me all the way back to when they made movies just for kids.
Yeah.
And I felt like this, we found a place where we had some adult stuff with some kid stuff, and I kind of like that because it's fun for the whole family. This was very kid centric, like it was very leaned into the children. But Wu-Tang's for kids.
This movie is gonna make me track down a copy on Amazon or eBay or something of Super Nintendo Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Turtles in Time.
I liked where they went with the movie. I liked how it was a very okay, as far as reimaginings go, it's one of the best I've ever seen of anything. They changed who Splinter is. They changed how they became ninjas, kind of. They changed their personalities, sort of. They always kind of tweak the Turtles' personalities, and they but they gave April more. I guess it's similar to the newer Nickelodeon series than anything else, but even then, it's still not the same. I love what they've done with it. The soundtrack was incredible. I love how they snuck in a little He-Man "What's Going On" song. They snuck in the Four Non Blonde song, but it was the He-Man version, and that was incredible. Seth Rogen and his team, I think, did a pretty good job. Jordan was right, though. Ice Cube did take me out of it a little bit. Like, okay, you can quote your songs, but quote the songs that fit the scenario. You know what I mean? Like, why are you talking about police when there's turtles in front of you? Anyway, incredible fight scenes. Whatever you have to say about the plot, the dialogue, whatever it is, that's aside from the fact that the fight scenes were so good. The action sequences were nuts. Oh, they had so many great shots of just the turtles being turtle ninjas, and that's why we came to see the show. Jumping from rooftop to rooftop, doing their own thing, having their own personality in the way they parkour. The animation, you could say, took from Spider-Man, but not in the way that it copied Spider-Man. I would say more like the way that Spider-Man allowed this movie to happen. It's its own thing entirely. It's like everything's kind of made of clay or cardboard. So that's cool. Anyway, fantastic movie. Popcorn in 3. Popcorn in 3. You heard me.
Dope. That's pretty dope. All right, so this week we're going to save you guys some money. You don't have to meet us at the cinema, but our butter on top this week is going to be Heart of Stone, starring Gal Gadot on Netflix. It releases Friday. We hope we're all watching it at the same time as you. But time for Jordan to give us his climactic moment within the show where he tells us what the drunk classic will be.
This one might peeve you guys a little bit. It's some melodrama comedy, some music. I'm going to go with, it's not that too old. It's a 2019, I believe, movie called Yesterday.
Yesterday. I've seen Yesterday.
It's called Yesterday.
I've always wanted to see this
where a
one.
man has an accident on a magical night, and he wakes up, and it turns out the Beatles never existed. And so he takes it upon himself that he needs to introduce this great music to the world. So, Yesterday.
That's really cool.
It's interesting that you really like that movie.
I love that movie.
All right.
That's very diplomatic of you, Fry. Yeah, I haven't seen it, so that's going to be a point for me. Again, I'm way, way ahead. I'll get you.
Yeah,
kids.
Josh, I absolutely think you're gonna love it. Audience, I think you're gonna love it. Probably the Beatles. I'm gonna be outnumbered here. The Beatles are one of the most popular bands to ever walk the earth, and they still have stood the test of time. So I'm sure the audience will love it. But this is the end of our show. So as always, we'll see you at the movies. You bring the popcorn, and we've got the beer. Thanks so much.
You don't like the Beatles, dude?